welcome. My name is Habiba for those of you that are new, and today we're going to be making a Jamaican rum cake, which people call black cake, Christmas cake, fruit cake. This recipe was handed down to me by my grandfather, Jacob Robotham, who passed away several years ago. We loved him, we loved the cake, and I'm going to share it here with you today. If you are an old subscriber, you have seen that I had a Jamaican rum cake a few years ago. So without further ado, let's get on with the baking. But first, let me show you some of the ingredients you're going to need. Black cake requires a number of ingredients, so it's not cheap. And so to make it taste the best possible, authentic, moist, delicious, rich, you have to make sure you have the right ingredients, okay? So you're gonna need some all-purpose flour, or you could also use cake flour. You got our flour, it has already been sieved, okay? Just using a basic sieve it. You're going to need some baking powder, okay? You're gonna need some butter. What's important about the butter is make sure you bring it to room temperature. So this butter is definitely a little on the softer side at room temp. You're going to need some eggs. Also bring the eggs to room temperature. You're going to need some brown sugar. As you know, brown sugar is not as sweet or as intense as white sugar. So you don't want your cake to be too sweet. All right, you're going to need some burnt sugar, and this is Blue Mountain burnt sugar. Sometimes people use browning, what they call browning. And if you can't even find that, you can make it yourself. So I will show you how to make it yourself, again, in the description box. All right, so this is partially what makes the cake dark. So the fruit makes it dark, but also the burnt sugar makes it nice and rich and dark. You're going to need some spice, your vanilla. I like to use pure vanilla. So not the imitation vanilla, not the artificially flavored vanilla, pure vanilla. You're going to need some cinnamon. Another thing or another spice that some people like to use is cloves. Cloves can be very strong, and cloves gives it a different flavor, but you can certainly add a tiny bit, like half a teaspoon if you want. I don't prefer cloves in my cake, so I'm only going to use cinnamon, because that's what my grandfather used to do. Cinnamon, vanilla, and some nutmeg. Must have nutmeg. You can get the whole fruit, you know, the whole dried fruit, and grate it, but you can also find organic ground nutmeg in your supermarket. You're also gonna need a lime. Make sure you rub the lime, you know, on the counter to get the juice out. And this is gonna make sure that your cake doesn't have that raw taste. It gives it a little bit more citrusy taste. And what I find is when you add lime to things also, you don't necessarily need to add salt. Like I know some people add salt into their cake batter. I don't do that. I get my little lime, okay? Now you're going to also need your fruit. And some of you are wondering, how do you get the fruit to look like this? What's in it? How did you get it this way? Well, let me tell you, there is a video in the description box, linked in the description box, because if I did that here, the video would be too long. So I have to do that in a separate video, the process of getting your fruit soaked. So this is fruit that I've literally had for a year. Every year, I soak more fruit, okay? We're not gonna use all of this. I just wanted to show you that I really do use this fruit. Yeah, this basically is cherries, raisins, currants, and prunes soaked in wine and rum. Now, some people use the red label wine. In Jamaica, they use that a lot. I could not find that here, so here we tend to use the Fairbanks port. And this is also red, okay? Let's just say you don't have time to soak it, or you didn't soak it a year ago. There's another alternative. You can stew your fruit for several minutes on the stove so that you can kind of get this consistency. Again, I prefer to soak it. So it's something you have to plan ahead. But again, if you haven't soaked it, you can definitely stew your fruit. All right, so I'm setting up my mixer, and you gotta make sure you use the right instrument to start off with. So usually the mixer comes with, you know, a whisk and one of these. And we're gonna start off with this one, the chunkier one, because your ingredients are heavier and thicker. I'm gonna start off by mixing my butter, creaming my butter. Of course, make sure your hands are clean. And save the papers. You're gonna need the papers later to butter your cake tins. You know, where you're gonna bake the cake. So let's start off by creaming the butter. Our butter is in. Let's go ahead and cream it. Okay, I'm just gonna put it on stir. And as you work, you're gonna make sure you have one of these, a spatula. These are really handy because you can get to scrape off the butter and the whatever ingredients you're working with, because you want to make sure you're constantly pushing the ingredients into the mixing bowl properly. So you guys, I got so excited to start the cake, I forgot to put on my apron. So let's put that on so we don't make a mess of our clothes, right? Okay, back to work. I'm gonna go ahead and add my sugar gently. And again, this is brown sugar. Try to stop it every so often and make sure it's mixed really well. You know, this is the sugar and butter. So you want to get it to a nice fluffy consistency. While we're waiting on our sugar and butter to cream, that's a good time to go ahead and break your eggs and add them one at a time. So don't try to add all your eggs at once. Do it one at a time. That way you can examine it and take out, you know, that nasty part that's in there. I always take that part out. You know, you can tell it's not ready because it does not look nice and fluffy and well mixed in. In fact, it almost gives you this look like it's curdled a little bit. So we're gonna change the paddle into a whisk. Now that it's very liquid, this would be ideal for the whisk. Put it on. Vanilla, and then 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. I'm going to add a zest of lime. Of course, make sure your lime is washed properly. And preferably find an organic lime because you're using the zest and the juice. So you want to make sure it doesn't have any of that nasty wax on top of it. So I'm just going to zest it. If you don't have organic limes, then just don't use the zest. Just use the juice, the lime juice, okay? It just gives it a nice citrusy, rich flavor. Okay, so we got a little bit of zest. Let's add our juice. Now to make sure you don't get any seeds, you're gonna wanna you know, put it through a strainer. About half a lime was enough. This was half a lime. Look at all the juice I got. All right, next thing we're gonna add is our burnt sugar. And there's a lot of controversy as to how much you add. Personally, I think it's up to you because I like my cakes dark. So I use at least 4 tablespoons of burnt sugar in it. Sometimes I use a little bit more. But again, it's up to you. I think black cake is called black cake for a reason. It's supposed to be dark. It doesn't have to be jet black, you know, but it should be dark. So this is what the dark burnt sugar looks like. As you can see, it's pretty dark. So again, I'm putting in about 4 tablespoons. And if I don't like how dark it looks, I might add a little bit more. All right. Now, let me show you the color, how it changes. You see the batter so far? We've got eggs, butter, sugar, spice, lime. Look at the color. Now you'll see how it changes, even before we put the fruit. Okay, now, while this is going, this is a good time to blend coarsely. Coarsely blend your fruits. So let's get our pre-soaked fruit together, blend it in our mixer or processor, and then add it to our batter. So here's the fruit, a close-up of the fruit that's been soaked. Here is 1 cup. And I just wanted to show you the contrast between the maraschino cherries that have not been soaked and the ones that have been soaked. And I'm going to use a total of 4 cups. So that's 2 cups. Let's go with the 3rd cup. That's all I want. I don't want it any more than that. Okay? See? Now this is going to add to the color of the cake as well. It's going to do half at a time. Turn it back on. Smells so good. So I'm putting on the guard once I'm going to start adding the flour. And it's important not to over whisk when you add flour. You're going to add about half a cup at a time. You can do a cup to half a cup at a time. But don't pour all the flour in at once. And so that your cake is not too hard, do not over whisk it. So you're going to end up with enough batter for 2 cakes. Might be 1 large cake and 1 small cake, or 2 medium-sized cakes. All right, we're gonna stop. It's only been a few minutes, literally only a few minutes. So as you can see, it has a consistency. It looks like almost like a chocolate cake, doesn't it? It looks like chocolate cake to me. If you didn't know better, you would think this was chocolate cake with some fruit in it. So I'm gonna stir it, you know, to stir the rest of the flour and make sure it's mixed well. Stirring it with my spatula. Oh my God, look how much yummy batter we have here. This is a lot. Yeah, you get quite a bit. So I have 2 tins, okay? 2 of these springform tins, cake tins, and I've already put the butter on the sides and parchment paper. So make sure you have parchment paper on the bottom. See? I just wanted to show you so that it's clear. There was butter on the bottom, and then there is butter on top of the parchment paper, because we just want to make sure this cake does not stick. So I put the parchment paper and then put the springform on it, and voila. You tap it hard on your counter so that it settles well, and that way you make sure there are no air bubbles. All right, that it's properly even. So yeah, before I put it in the oven, I'm also going to cover it lightly with a piece of foil. So tin foil lightly, not tight, because you still want the cake to rise, but you don't want it to, you know, be too big. Usually it's a very level cake. I'm just gonna lightly put it on there, very lightly. Now when the cake is almost done, or you know, you want to check it, then you can take off the piece of foil. So my oven is already on. It has been set to 300 degrees, so make sure you preheat your oven. Bring in my pan of water. And then in go the cakes. But wait, we forgot our little tester. We're gonna have to try this. This cake has not been soaked, and this one has been soaked. You can see this one is clearly darker. While the cake is still warm, I'm gonna go ahead and poke holes all over the cake, and then we're gonna go ahead and drizzle some of the solution where the fruit was soaking in. So it's a combination of, you know, the essence of the fruit, rum and wine, and that's what we're drizzling all over the cake, and it's just going to get well absorbed into the cake. So some people make a cake literally 6 months before they need it, and they just keep adding rum or wine to it, or a combination, and that will make a delicious preserved cake. You can definitely eat the cake the same day you make it, but ideally it's better to let that rum and wine solution absorb well for days, if not weeks. The texture will be so much better and it will taste better. Okay, how or when will you serve your lovely black cake? I'm gonna give you some ideas. Of course, the classic way is for Christmas. After a lovely Christmas dinner, you will have some black cake. So make sure you leave room after dinner for your black cake and maybe a glass of sorrel. Then you might want to have a tea party. So maybe you and your girlfriends might have a little tea party, and you can serve them a rich slice of black cake. Simple slice of black cake will do. Lovely. Or you might want to add some cherries and some whipped cream. Or you can certainly add some more whipped cream and some strawberries. Or you might do it a la mode with some ice cream. It's up to you. It's your day. Another wonderful idea for your Caribbean fruit cake or black cake is use it as a gift or at a birthday party. I'm sure your loved one will appreciate that. If you want to make the cake even more festive, go ahead and have it iced, and you can use it for Valentine's Day, you can use it for a wedding anniversary or any kind of anniversary, birthday, or even wedding. This was how I had my wedding cake. It was iced. Of course, this one is for demonstration purposes and not as pretty as my wedding cake, but you get the idea. So thank you for watching me bake. If you enjoyed it, I hope it was informative. I hope you're getting ready for Christmas season yourself. And as you can see, this cake is not just for Christmas, okay? This cake can be used for weddings. This cake can be used for birthdays, anniversaries, whatever you like. So I hope you make it. I hope you enjoy it. And again, if you have any questions at all, drop them in the comments section. And also, don't forget maybe your question is already answered on my book, so definitely check that out. Link in the description, okay? So again, thank you for watching, and God bless. From my kitchen, or in this case, my deck, to your house. Bye! So this is the good stuff. Find it. That's the good stuff. Make sure you have a cake tin where you're going to bake your cake. I prefer springform type baking tins like this. Bottom comes up. It makes it so much easier when you're taking the cake out. If you don't have a springform baking tin like these, you can use these regular baking tins. And you can see these dough are kind of shallow. So I prefer when the baking tin is a lot deeper because you get a thicker slice, and this rum cake being so dense lends itself to a thicker cake tin. So, but if you don't have that, you can use these. As you can see, these come in varying sizes. So for example, if you were actually making a wedding cake, you would have cakes of different sizes and stack them once they're iced. My only thing or challenge with these type is that sometimes it can be a challenge to take the cake out if you don't line it properly. Now, if you don't want a round cake, you can definitely do a loaf size cake or rectangular cake. And these make really awesome gifts because you can make about 4 of these to 1 of these. The amount of batter that you need for 1 of these is about 1/4 or 1/3 what you would with 1 of these large round ones. So makes a great gift. I can't speak. Makes a great gift. You're gonna need some cake tins. Now I collect cake tins over the years because I'm always giving them away when I send them to people because they make great gifts. Now I don't know how easy or challenging it's going to be to find cake tins now during the pandemic. So you can also find biscuit tins or cookie tins like these ones. Many of us have mothers or grandmothers that stored cake in these biscuit tins or cookie tins. Just make sure whatever size you get, it matches the size of your cake. Because a lot of the cookie tins tend to be smaller. Of course, none of this would have been possible without the generosity of my amazing grandfather, Jacob Robotham, who handed out this recipe to me. May he rest in peace, and my grandma, Caristine Robotham. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you got something out of this video. Definitely grab your copy of the Caribbean Fruit Cake. It has everything you need to know about making this cake. Vegan, gluten-free, sugar-free, alcohol-free, you name it. It's in the book. Bye!